I've played tons of video games, and if you've seen my previous videos, you might say to yourself, this guy has an unhealthy addiction to all things Nintendo, and well, hopefully today will prove I'm open to talking about whatever system is out there, for example, the Sega Master System, the only real competitor to the NES. Now when I do these episodes, I tend to do them in the release order for the console. One of our other Epic community members, TripleStar100, requested a video on the best Mega Drive box arts, but today I wanted to first address the best Sega Master System box arts, so that's what we're going to do today. Don't worry, that Mega Drive video is coming up really soon, I promise. Let's begin. The Sega Master System was an oddity. Originally it was known as the Sega Mark III, which is what it was known as for a vast majority of Asia, unless you lived in South Korea, where it was known as the Aladdin Boy or the Gam Boy. That's a thing. But the Sega Master System, or SMS, which is what I'm going to call it from now on, was the result of the westernization of the original Sega Mark III, so it was known as such in the US, Europe, and more importantly, Brazil, but we'll get to that at some point. Our first game today is Wimbledon 2. Now this is a tennis game that was only released in Europe and Brazil. You might recognize the name because the first game was released on the Sega Genesis, but this is 93. It's really late for the Sega Master System. After all, the Genesis was available in the US starting in 1989. This game is simple though, it's just a tennis game, not much to it, but the box art is fairly decent. We see three folks all mid-swing, and the art is kind of realistic for what it is, and I enjoy the time and effort that went into the artistic direction for this. Plus, look at that guy's mane. Holy shit, that guy puts John McEnroe to shame. Looks like this guy is jealous too. You like Castlevania? This is basically Sega's attempt to take on Castlevania, but instead of us being a legendary vampire hunter from a very long lineage of vampire hunters, we instead play as a psychologist known as Dr. Ferdinand Social. He's a cool guy, you know? Kind of guy who goes to strip clubs because he can save the ladies, you know what I mean? Much like the previous game, this was developed by Sims, which is important for this era of Sega. Sims stands for Soft Development Innovation Multi-Success. What a dumb fucking acronym. It's the result of two powerhouse companies joining forces in the early 90s, Sega and Sanritsu Denki. Sims themselves made the majority of the games on the Sega Master System that didn't make you want to sit on a traffic cone vertically, if you know what I mean. But the box art is pretty cool, and you can tell that Sims wanted to have that Castlevania aesthetic. The vampire and his minions look dope as hell, and we can see our main character going headstrong with but a simple sword, literally fighting the monstrosities of the great beyond. It looks pretty cool. Double Dragon. Well, this is a well-known game, more so a well-known franchise because to me, it refined the beat-em-up genre. And to date, there's been about 25 different releases for it, be it the 1987 arcade release or the 2023 Windows release. But what we care about right now is the 1988 release of it for the SMS. Now, I've actually talked about this game because it was part of the first console clash that I did with a fellow streamer and YouTuber, Janked Jesus. I do want to continue that episode series soon, so look forward to more of those videos. But in that video, we talked about just how fun Double Dragon was on the SMS, and in some ways, it was more accurate to the arcade experience, except for a few graphical issues, but that's fractional. What we care about right now is the box art. While the logo itself looks kind of goofy, the bottom is where it's at. Billy and Jimmy look good. Never underestimate the power of the black outline. To me, it's eons better than the two block-headed goon fucks on the front of the NES version. Here it is for comparison. See? Not too bad. Good job, Master System. Got another European exclusive for you, Danan the Jungle Fighter, a side-scrolling action-adventure game. It's a game where you play as Danan, a jungle boy who is rescued from a plane crash at a young age and was taught the skills of the jungle. It's basically Human Jungle Book. By the way, that jungle is located on the planet of Guyane. On this planet are tons of tropics, but more importantly, there are two countries that are currently duking it out. Malice and Gates. Malice is the freedom land, Gates is the fascist land. Usually we wouldn't care, but horny boy Danan meets a freedom fighter from Malice, and there you go. Plot. I'm telling you right now, folks, never underestimate the influence of vagina. That's a lesson we should all know. The box art has Danan facing tons of dudes, and much like the others, I enjoy the art aesthetic. It really pops, and to be honest, the art in the game itself, it is pretty good. So low-key, I do look forward to playing this one, even though it wasn't well received by critics. Oh, bonjour! Je m'appelle Titus! Or Titus. I don't know if it's Titus or Titus or Titus. All I know is that when I see that dumb fox's face, I instantly know I'm in for a bad time. Not a huge fan of the company, but my opinion aside, this is Fire and Forget 2. For my Amiga and Atari ST fans out there, this is the sequel to the original Fire and Forget. Fire and Forget in practical application is a variant of missile guidance, and while I've never worked on missiles before, I am familiar with the term, and if you've ever played Wing Commander, you might be familiar with it as well. But this is a racing game, and to be honest, it's kinda decent. Imagine road blasters with Space Harrier inspiration. I only say that based on how the enemies are rendered coming our direction. We can go high, we can go low, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up on a 10 list in the future. But the box is what we care about. On it, we see the big logo, we see our flying car in great detail, approaching a city that's #fucked, which plays into the plot of the game, where we're trying to prevent a terrorist attack on Megapolis. I like to think that our failure is exactly what's happening on that box. Well, fuck off. Why does this box have to look so good? Well, this is Ecco the Dolphin on the Sega Master System, a game that makes as much sense as trying to read Braille on a touchscreen. I'm not a fan of this series at all. In the game, we go around doing things as Ecco, who is the one dolphin who's capable of saving the world, and we do that by shouting at things like an asshole until something makes sense. Or, in the case of the SMS version, jumping around until something happens. And let's expand on the controls, because nothing says majestic ocean mammal like slamming headfirst in every wall, rock, and sea urchin. You know, the whole momentum-based movement means Ecco is either going nowhere or launching himself into oblivion like a wet torpedo with trust issues. Every single cave we go into, it's a maze, and oxygen... Oxygen is a luxury item, because after all, you're a mammal, and this game hates you for it. Now, while this game was significantly more popular on the Genesis, it did receive a SMS release in the European regions, and it's somewhat different, at least in terms of level design, which isn't uncommon. The SMS is not as powerful as the Genesis, so they had to make do with what they could. That being said, the artwork for the SMS version is exactly the same as the Genesis, which in comparison to other box arts for the SMS, it looks great. It really stood out. While I might not like the game, I do believe that the box is worth looking at, so if you do buy it, treat it like art. Don't ever play it. Just look at it. But wait, there's more! There were 2 Ecco games on the Genesis. The other one was Tides of Time, and in many ways it's basically the same thing, and I do mean the exact same thing. It's a glorified maze-filled scavenger hunt of nonsense that for some reason they really wanted to have on the Master System in Brazil. That's where it was released. Only in Brazil. You know everything from the first game that made you think, why am I playing this? It takes that same abstract suffering and launches it into the stratosphere. The big change in this one is that you have the metasphere, where you can change into other varieties of sea creatures like a shark, a jellyfish, stupid-ass seagull. Yeah, and much like its predecessor, it was primarily released on the Genesis, and as such, it maintains the same artwork, which I find to be pleasant, thus giving it an honorable mention. I'm gonna be honest with you. Playing Earthworm Jim is like being trapped in a 90s fever dream where the art team was on fire, the music was great, and then someone handed the controller to a ferret having a nervous breakdown and said, here, design the gameplay. The controls are so floaty that it feels like Jim is constantly trying to walk through invisible pudding while wearing greased bowling shoes. You press jump, and he half commits like he's second-guessing every life decision that brought him to this moment. It's the level design, though, that really chafes my butthole, you know what I'm saying? 1 minute you're bouncing on tires in the junkyard, and the next you're escorting a fragile glass bubble through underwater death traps, designed by someone with an active vendetta against joy. It's not difficult in the traditional sense. It's like the game designers were actively offended by fun! But hey, let's put it on the Sega Master System, only in Brazil, and yeah, congrats, by technicality you end up with amazing artwork on the box. I hope you're proud of yourself, Shiny Entertainment, because I'm not. I'm disappointed. It's Earthworm Jim on an 8-bit console. Yay. You ever play Linus Spacehead's Cosmic Crusade on the NES? This is a remake of the game. It's the same one that was ported to home computers at the time, the Game Gear and the Genesis, except this one only really saw traction in the European regions, which makes sense because it was created by Camerica, you know, the same folks who brought us the Game Genie. Yeah, that's Camerica. It's kind of tough to describe what it is without playing it, but to me it's a point-and-click game, but on home consoles, with some of the most skull-fucking and scathing music you could imagine. To me, it's only slightly above Dizzy in terms of control, but at least the box art is something that I can say is good about it. It has that back page of the newspaper where the comics are, you know, the ones that you would read on the toilet. That's the art direction. And I like it. Is it ultra realistic? No, but hey, if I saw this as a kid, I'd probably buy it. And from a marketing perspective, that's all that matters. Well, for the first time on this list, we have a severe downgrade. I don't mean that disrespectfully, there's just certain games that originated on higher graphical standards that are nuked to make money on lower graphical standard consoles. In the case of Air Rescue, it was an arcade game released in 1992. Many people consider it the spiritual successor of Thunderblade, or at least that's how I saw it. For many of you, you'll say, "Holy shit, 3D choplifter!" And you'd be right in that assumption as well. But this is the Sega Master System version, and to be honest, it really isn't that bad. It's just a downgrade from 3D to 2D, but the game itself is playable, which is more than what can be said for quite a few games on this list. I'm still not over Ecco. The game can be difficult though, your helicopter can only take one hit, and one of the major mechanical changes from what we knew in Choplifter was that by pushing button 2, we could drop a ladder to pick up prisoners, which is reflected in the artwork of the game. We see a quite perilous rescue attempt in action, and a guy swinging over a burning inferno trying to get rescued. It's very cool. The logo looks kinda stupid, but it's the Sega Master System, it doesn't matter. Time for a horizontal shooter. I'm not a big fan of horizontal shooters, but to be honest, this is one that I've had on my hit list for a long time. We play as a F-15 pilot known as the Freedom Fighter, who has to destroy 5 major targets. Along the way, we'll encounter other enemy aircraft that comes in droves to interrupt our mission, be it enemy airplanes, helicopters, parachute bombs, tons of different things to avoid, and they do shoot back, which is always fun, right? It's nice to see that the final game on this list was one that was released in America, and the cover art for it is beautiful. I don't know why I'm such a sucker for incredible art design, but when I sat through all of the box arts for this console, it was alphabetical, and I already had this one in mind. A gorgeous painted blue sky with our aircraft going into the heat of it, going headstrong into the enemies that are trying to kill us, the lightning effects, and a logo that is discreet enough to not distract us from the artwork below. It's balanced, and I appreciate that. So from the box itself to the game, this is a solid entry for this list. And that's it for today's episode. Which SMS game boxes stood out to you the most? Feel free to let us know down in the comments section below. Who knows, maybe you'll create a positive memory for someone else in this community. Speaking of our community, if you made it to the end of this episode, you're already home with us. We're a gathering of video game enthusiasts that love remembering a time when life was just a little bit easier to live. And if you align with that, feel free to subscribe. Finally, the single most important thing you can do for me is to hit that thumbs up button, as it directly impacts the visibility of the videos and the projects that I work on every single day. As always, from my family to your family, good energy, good vibes. Fortefyre out.